we got a lot to rip through. I am very angry with the Flyers. They piss me off almost every single night at this point, and they happen to do it again tonight in Columbus. But that's not where we begin. We start with this offensive coordinator opening. And I am angry that it's taking this long. This offensive coordinator hire was supposed to be significant. It was supposed to be going from Kevin Patullo, Kevin, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, Patullo, to a Brian Daboll, to a Mike McDaniel. That's the way this was supposed to go. Someone in control. Someone who commands the offensive room. Someone who adds real flavor and some new wrinkles. That was the goal. Not Jim Bob Cooter and Matt Nagy. So I'm extremely disappointed. And patience. No. I'm thinking panic. Because deep down, I believe Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie both know this thing is set up with Nick Sirianni for a disaster. And now, what? Now I think they're lost. And that's why it's taking forever. It's not this smart, strategic move that Howie Roseman is bringing everybody in under the sun to talk to and pick their brain about what they'd be doing with this offense if they had the keys. Please. That's not it at all. They're struggling to find people who want to be a coach under Nick Sirianni, and they're struggling to find people who are okay with being told what to do instead of actually being able to run what they believe works. So 215-592-9494, that's the phone number. My question I'm asking you, should I be this angry? Should I be this upset and this emotional over the way this has been going? Or does Howie Roseman deserve the benefit of the doubt because what he has accomplished so far as general manager is out of this world? Right? It's everything we could have ever dreamed of. So should I buy into that and give him at least an opportunity to show his worth? Because when he goes outside the organization, for a Shane Steichen or a Kellen Moore, we have a lot of success. When they stay in-house, it's a mess. And they're going outside this time around. So maybe there's something to it. I don't know. I mean, I am aggravated. I'm crushed. This was not what it was supposed to be about. It was supposed to get a real offensive mind in here. Like a real, true, confident offensive mind that was going to help build this thing back up to be a serious contender with these type of weapons. Instead, maybe a quarterback's coach out in Green Bay, which I'm not telling you he's going to be a stiff by any means, but I was anticipating a strong, solid swing from Howie. Go get one of the big fish. Go make a statement. Let the NFL world know we mean business. The Eagles aren't messing around. They got one of the hottest names on the market, paired him together with Jalen. They're ready for war. They're ready to bounce back big time. Is anybody really afraid right now? Doesn't seem it. They're probably going, oh man, look at what's going on in Philadelphia. It's chaos. Listen to this. This happened today, by the way, on NFL Live. Adam Schefter said something that I couldn't even believe it. I actually started to vomit as he was speaking to the camera. And I'm going, this can't be real. You're making me sick. You're making me nauseous. This is what Adam Schefter had to say on NFL Live.
Well, they might not be the big names that Sal in Philadelphia will like, but they've spent the last couple of days talking to Jim Bob Cooter of the Indianapolis Colts, and they've spoken today to Sean Mannion, the Green Bay Packers quarterbacks coach, who a lot of people believe has a bright coaching future, and they're looking for the right fit for one of these jobs. They've been through any number of candidates. They don't appear to be in any rush to name somebody. They have Nick Serriani, who always could call the offense if they can't find somebody worthy of doing the job, but they're being diligent, looking for the right match. And also, again, the fit is not for everybody, as we've seen. Some people have taken other jobs. Some people have pulled out of consideration. It's not for everybody, but they think there are enough good candidates out there that they're going to come out of this with a good, strong offensive coordinator.
That is disgusting. If they can't find the right guy, Nick Sirianni can call plays? Oh my God. What are we doing? We are now at the point where there may not even be an option. By the way, Adam Schefter equals Howie Roseman. He is a mouthpiece for Howie. Howie wants something out. He goes right to Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter says it verbatim, and then they move on. That's how this works. So to me, I'm taking that as Howie. Howie's going, you know what? Not everybody's fit for this. Not everybody's right for this. And if we can't get something sexy enough to our liking, we'll just have Nick do it. You want to waste a season? You want to waste another season? You know how special that defense was? This defense could have hung around with all these other defenses that are left in championship weekend that just passed, and with the two teams that are fighting for the damn trophy in the bowl. If you get another opportunity to have a ridiculous defense like that, you're going to do what with it? You're going to waste it by giving the offense to Nick? I don't know what I'm doing, Sirianni. It was bad enough you had him tied together with Kevin Patullo, who was clueless. That's a joke. Pitchforks, everything should be out if we ever live in a world where they go down that path. Horrific. And the fact that that's even mentioned makes my blood boil. That's a joke. If that's the case, fire Nick and restart. Because I'm telling you, it's going to be horrific if that man has full say on what's being called in-game and all the design stuff is hit. It'll be horrible. Horrible. At that point, cut ties. Because you know deep down, they thought about it at the end of 23 and during 24. They're not that far away. Doing that would be insanely disrespectful to all of us. And the fact that that's even on the table, you are lower than I ever thought you'd ever be. And that's why I get aggravated. It was supposed to be about a Daboll. It was supposed to be about a Mike McDaniel. It was supposed to be about a Kingsbury, who his name hasn't even really been brought up anywhere, really, around league circles. But it's supposed to be something of that nature that actually brings some flair and some personality to what could be next season. Yet we're backed into a corner where there may not be any takers, to the point where we may live and die with Nick getting an opportunity again. That's desperate. That's so, oh my God, that's so bad. If you can't get anyone to buy in, that by default it goes to the guy that you almost canned twice in the last 2 years, whew, that was eye-opening. And it really hit a nerve. So 215-592-9494. Should I be this angry? Should I be this aggravated? I am. Whether I should or shouldn't be, I am. Talk to me. Help me. Or agree with me and say, Brodes, you're intelligent. Let's go to Christy in South Philly to start things off. What's up, Christy?
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's going on?
Good. Second time calling. The last time I got cut off, unfortunately, but I'm glad we can reconnect. I think we're gonna be okay as Eagles fans. I promise, man. I know it seems a little dark right now with this offensive coordinator thing. Don't worry, man. Howie's got us. In the last X amount of years, that guy has been nothing but a tremendous GM. I remember when I was watching a lot of these sports shows, Get Up and all that, they're saying if you had to pick one person, player or executive, to start your organization would it be Howie Roseman? Now, I know a lot of media, they like to, when the Eagles are hot, they like to ride us a little bit, and then when we're down in the dumps, they like to rip on us. But I think Howie's going to do right by us. I'm not saying, we didn't land one of the big fish. Mike McDaniels could care less about him. He couldn't even hold the locker room together. He had everyone showing up late to meetings. They didn't respect him. It's hard for him to, do anything productive, especially being here in Philadelphia. He can go to L.A. with Harbaugh and whatever the hell they're going to do out there, and the choke artist and Justin Herbert, not worried about him. Dayball would have been pretty cool. I don't think they would have meshed together. Whoever Howie feels confident to bring in, and he's going to mesh with Nick, we're going to be okay. And I understand we hate on Serriani a little bit because of his antics, but the guy is really smart. His time management, his player management is top tier. You saw what Sean McVay did in an NFC Championship, not throwing that challenge flag and wasting a timeout. Sirianni don't make those mistakes. You know what I mean?
No,
I have a really good head coach. I really do.
I agree that, and Chrissy, thank you for the call. I appreciate the passion and the other side of things with some positivity there. I agree that the differences between the Sean McVay, the Kyle Shanahans is clear. They don't think the game very well in the moment, and it's probably because they are so involved with the play sheet covering their eyes 24/7, and they're so into the creativeness here and there that they miss out on some boneheaded things, and Nick Sirianni, during his good seasons, never seems to have that big of a hiccup in big moments the way those guys do. With that said, though, I don't know if he's smart enough. I really don't. See, this organization, and I like Nick. I'm not a Nick hater by any means. I do generally like Nick Sirianni, but I'm removing all fandom for a second and just looking objectively. They preach sustained success all the time because that's what everybody's goal is. But they've also taken the strangest path to get sustained success. He isn't the modern NFL thinking. He isn't the modern NFL offensive guy. And because of that, you're constantly having to roll the dice on landing a new offensive coordinator year in and year out, whether whoever you hire isn't good enough, and then you're really screwed because your head coach can't help and your OC is overwhelmed, and then things unravel, which we saw twice. Or you're getting a head coaching job because the offensive coordinator comes in, Shane Steichen, Kellen Moore, they can do their thing, but then there's a big hole in your organization in the offseason, and Nick can't step in and provide that spark that you need offensively, and he's missing that element. So you're right to say McVay struggles in that area, but where Nick Sirianni struggles is massive, and to the point where the owner and the general manager, who you praised and said he's one of the smartest minds in the game, they've questioned firing this man twice in the last 2 years. So if you're going to say Howie's very intelligent and how he knows certain things and you'll ride and die with him and you trust his thinking, it's been reported that after 23 and during 24, it's both been on the table to get rid of this guy. He's missing too much from a schematic standpoint for him to make up for it in the in-game decision-making standpoint, unfortunately. And that's a shame. But that's where we stand currently. And as much as I'm a Howie guy and I trust Howie, he doesn't bat 1,000. Bryce Huff was a monster swing and a miss. He's missed big time. He went into this season thinking Ringo was going to play outside of Quinyon Mitchell and be a starter. He thought that was a serious move. Ringo stinks and doesn't even deserve to be in the league. And he thought that would be opposite Q starting corner. So we miss it. Kevin Patullo was a disaster. Kevin Patullo, I'm going to be 93 years old, and I'm going to be telling my grandkids about the Kevin Patullo season. This guy ran 75,323 hitch routes in one game. In one game. It's an all-time. This guy's going to be made fun of for the history of sports talk radio. He was that much of a disaster. And how he went with him. Brian Johnson was a failure. So I agree that he's very good at his job. But being very good at this job also means you miss a ton. And my biggest concern of this whole thing is I think Howie Roseman has grabbed too much power. where I think they've swung way too aggressively in the anti-Chip Kelly part of this, where now it's like nobody else deserves say whatsoever, which is not where the standard is right now for the league. Guys want to come in and they want to implement their strong beliefs. They want to implement what they feel is a sexy offense, what they feel can, really generate a ton of success. And Howie is at the top saying, I don't give a damn what you want. You got to fit into what I think. And while he does a lot of things well, I think that's rubbing a lot of these coordinators, potential coordinators, the wrong way, where you're going to miss out on a Mike McDaniel, who you say can't do anything in Miami. There's not much a lot of people are doing in Miami. And just because you're not a good head coach doesn't mean you're a bad coordinator, because if that's the case, that means Vic Fangio stinks at a defensive coordinator. Vic Fangio couldn't even survive as a head coach in Denver. He's really good as a DC. The dude in New England, Josh McDaniels. He can't ever be a head coach. He's horrific. Yet when it comes to OC, this guy's going to Super Bowls nonstop. So I can't knock Mike McDaniel, because guess what? If he was here, I'd be thrilled and I'd be doing jumping jacks nude. Let's go to Jim in Northeast Philly. What's going on, Jim?
Hey, how you love the show.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it.
Did you hear Sal Palantonio on Action News tonight?
No. What did he say?
Okay. He said, well, first of all, they have to get an offensive coordinator that's going to get along with Nick Serriani, because Serriani doesn't want to be showing up, okay? Then he said Jalen Hurts will be very difficult to deal with because he does not want to run. He doesn't want to be under center. He wants things his way. And he said, if you bring in like a Doug Peterson who can get along with Sirianni, Frank Wright maybe, but he said that's the issue, because like Sirianni wants somebody he can get along with, and Jalen Hurts does not want to cooperate as well as he should, because he does not want to run and be under center. And that's basically what Sal Palantonio said.
Well, if that's the case, Jim, this is what I'm going to need. And I appreciate your input and your phone call, and I didn't hear that specific cut, but let's just run with that for a second, because I don't think that's ludicrous, even if it wasn't necessarily said. I think Jalen likes certain things. I do feel he needs to run more. I do think they need to be more under center. And with that, I want him to get pushed. So the reality is, the right way to do this is it's time for Nick Sirianni and Jalen to get a bit uncomfortable. But a comfortable amount of uncomfortable, if that makes sense. I don't want friendly guys with Nick. I don't like anybody that he's really associated with, to be honest with you. No one's really creative. No one's really sexy enough. Frank Reich? Come on, man. Doug Peterson? No way in hell. I need something new. So I want someone in here who can create an uncomfortable setting, but it's a comfortable, uncomfortable setting with the head coach and with the quarterback. I think they need to be pushed. I think they need to be both pushed out of their comfort zone. I've always said this about Nick. Nick actually does his best work when he's backed into a corner. I think Nick does his best job coaching when there's a ridiculous amount of heat under his ass, when the seat is hot, when there's a bunch of questions. That's when I feel that competitive, fiery Nick shows and it blossoms. And he proves people wrong, and he's got this edge, he's got this attitude, he's got this mentality. I like that side of Nick. Unfortunately, it takes bad things happening for him to get put in that predicament, but he does have a history of responding. You don't survive almost getting fired twice unless you're actually having a response to almost getting fired. And he did, to his credit. So I like that. And Kellen Moore, and this was all being reported by Jeff McClain and some others, Kellen Moore did not cater to what Jalen Hurts wanted the way some of these other guys did. Look how that went. He didn't just do everything Jalen wanted. Kellen Moore had a little bit more oomph and snarl to how things were being operated. Went to the Super Bowl and won it. So again, if that's true, and if that's what was stated, and if there is some validity to it, even if it wasn't stated, okay. What you don't do is get someone that makes them happy, because then it just sets you up for disaster. Oh, Nick's comfortable? Whoop-de-damn-do. That's horrific. That's actually the last thing I want. I don't want someone in here who's going to baby Jalen and baby Nick so Nick can feel good about himself. Nah, absolutely not. That's BS. So if that's how it's working out internally, they better get somebody who can rough it up a bit in a good way. Because sometimes I think that's how you get the best out of people. It's got to be in a respectful way. It's got to be with the right attitude in mind, where it's for the greater good of everybody. But that's how I see it. Brodes hanging out with you for another 2 hours. We hit on the Sixers in the most recent segment. We'll talk about the Flyers here as I see some calls lined up. The main topic, though, is I am really angry over this offensive coordinator search. Really. I am, disgusted by it. And I don't know if I'm wrong for it, right? Because the track record of the GM is very great, okay? Can't even sugarcoat it. And they've done a lot of great things as an organization, but something doesn't smell right now. And just because they've been excellent doesn't mean they're always going to be excellent. And when I think there's a crack in the foundation, I feel I have to speak up about it. And it's strange and bizarre for people to just walk away from this offensive coordinator job unless something is out of sync. And I think there's a power struggle issue. I think there's a Nick Sirianni issue. And I think it starts with those two. Do I believe people are running away from Jalen Hurts because he sucks so much at quarterback that they want nothing to do with him? No. Do I think that there are some things that Howie look at as a non-negotiable, and same with Nick Sirianni, and that's limiting who would want to potentially be here if there is a potential OC candidate that has a little bit of, power of their own? Dable has done enough in this league to deserve the opportunity to say, I really prefer X, Y, and Z. Mike McDaniel would come in here and say, I like X, Y, and Z. Well, is that even an opportunity? Or does Howie Roseman shut that down instantly? So all these creative minds with some version of stability, some version of new sexy scheme and ideas, are they just getting written off prior to even truly getting a golden opportunity because they're non-negotiables? And if so, that's an issue. Now, before we get to the phones, let's listen to Ross Tucker, who was on with the morning show, and he said this about the interviewing process and maybe why Howie is going through a bunch of names.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles have had 17 interviews so far. They are getting free consulting sessions. If they didn't want the job, those guys wouldn't have interviewed in the first place, okay? And let me say something else, too.
Sure.
These are two important notes. Number one, the Eagles intentionally hire people from outside the sport of football. For example, like Adam Berry, Andrew Berry's brother, came from Goldman Sachs. They are very well aware that in any other industry, if you are struggling in an aspect of your business and you bring in consultants to tell you what's wrong and how you can fix it, that costs hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles have had 17 interviews so far. They are getting free consulting sessions where they're saying, what are you seeing from us? What are we doing wrong? What would you do? They're getting a lot of value.
Information gathering.
And then the last thing is, and people don't really want to hear this, but the reality is it doesn't matter who they don't get. It only matters who they ultimately get and how that person does.
Okay, so here's my pushback. And I love Ross. Ross is phenomenal. He's amazing. Such a good dude. I truly do love him. My one pushback, though, on the whole consulting thing is that implies that they're going to sit down with 17 people, They're going to get all this information, and then what? They're going to hire an offensive coordinator and tell the offensive coordinator they hire about the 17 things that they learned from the people they didn't hire? Do you know what I mean? So let's say Howie Roseman hires Jim Bob Cooter, okay? But they interview 20 people. So now Howie is going to hire Jim Bob Cooter and tell Jim Bob Cooter about the 20 things he learned from everybody he didn't hire and make Jim Bob Cooter do it. It doesn't seem like a very smart, strategic way to go about this. If that's the case, then why aren't you hiring the ones that have these good ideas and then they're just hired because you like what they say? Are you going to take what the people you don't hire say? They're not good enough to have the job. You don't think they're capable of doing this, but you're going to take their ideas and hand it to somebody else who doesn't even think the game the way those guys did? I don't know. It just seems like a weird, bizarre way to sell this obnoxious amount of interviews. I'm just not buying it. And then with the ultimately it matters who you get, not the others you missed out on. Well, until you miss out on the one that you should have got. If you miss out on Dable, if you miss out on McDaniel, who they didn't offer to Brian Dable. Maybe that's why he ended up going to Tennessee. Because they were able to put down a number and a check and a contract and said, here you go. But Howie wasn't ready for that. Maybe that's a big reason why. Just wanted to move on with the offseason where it was going to go. Lock it up. Signed, sealed, and delivered. I agree that at the end of the day, if you get a good piece and it takes you 5 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks instead of 4 days, it doesn't matter as long as you get a piece that is important. And that's true. But if you miss out on some really good names that could have made you better throughout a 3-week process, then it does matter about the names you miss. And that's just my stance on it. Again, I love Ross to death, but that's sort of how I view it. All right, 215-592-9494. Should I be this angry over the OC search? Let's go to Mace in North Philly. What's going on, Mace?
How you doing? Hey, look, first, let me make it clear. You're my guy. I like Ike Reese a little bit better, but you're my guy.
Well, thanks, Mace. I appreciate that.
So let me try to help you down off the ledge here.
Yes, please.
The OC that went to Tennessee. Now I don't remember the source, but somebody on the radio reported that he has just as many wins as the coach that's out in Tennessee now, and that might have been the reason why he wanted to go there, is because he's actually in line to get the coach's job. Even though the Eagles present, like you have to have a winning season and all that stuff like that to get a coaching position, he's actually in line to get the coach's job from the beginning. So I think that's the reason why he went there, and that's what started all of this panic over the offensive coordinator, whether or not it's a good enough job, et cetera.
So just to verify, you're saying in Tennessee, where they just hired Robert Saleh, Brian Daboll could potentially steal Saleh's job, even though they're both heading in there for the first year? I just want to make sure I'm getting it correctly. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't know for a fact or whatever. I just heard somebody report that they actually have just as many wins as each other. So I believe that's what his
well, yeah, Robert
is.
Saleh did not have a lot of success with the Jets, and obviously Daboll's tenure with the Giants were a little out of control. But I just feel, and I could be wrong here, but if something was to go wrong with Robert Saleh in Tennessee, I'd imagine the next phase would be Saleh goes, Daboll goes, and the whole crew goes, and they start over fresh the way they did this year. But maybe Daboll has something in his back pocket here for, hey, I'll be the next in line. Who knows?
Yeah, that's all I got to say on it.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what's going on with him, and that's what started the whole panic.
Okay, and Mace, thank you, man. I appreciate the kind words, and I appreciate you trying to get me to get off the ledge a little bit. I don't know if it worked, but here's what I'll tell you. I respect the hell out of you for trying. I'm not easy to move. But yeah, it's hard for me to believe the system in Tennessee is all set up for Brian Daboll to take over Robert Saleh if that thing was to go off the rails. But I guess it could. The NFL is a weird, bizarre thing. Bill Belichick's not a Hall of Famer. So, I mean, everything is totally out of whack sometimes. But I think there's more to it on the Eagles side of why this job isn't appealing. I think that's the major story. Something's off. And I don't think it's as simple as Jalen sucks at football. Because I know some of you out there think it's because nobody wants to work with Jalen. That's allowing Nick Sirianni off the hook. That's allowing Howie Roseman off the hook, who we all love, but he's not perfect. There is a power struggle right now, and I think that power struggle is a reason why teams are unwilling to, or not teams, but other coordinators or potential hires from other teams are unwilling to maybe make this move. The only guys that you can get are the ones that don't have say, right? If you're established, if you have a bit of a track record, then you have balls and stones to push back on Howie a bit. And they don't want that. They want the puppet. They want the Doug Peterson. They want to tell Doug Peterson, you're not allowed to have Press Taylor. They want to tell Nick Sirianni, you're not allowed to have Kevin Patullo for a second year after what the hell happened this most recent run. That's what they want. So that's going to limit your potential new OCs. And I think that's where the issue starts. And I just don't know if that's good business. Even with as great as Howie has been, I'm not sure if that's the best way to operate. And I love Howie. But it doesn't mean he bats 1,000. Marty in Coachville. What's going on, Marty?
Yo, Brodes, what's up?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Hey, man, first-time caller. I love your show.
Well, thank you, Marty.
I'm out here in my man shed in the woods of northwest Chester County.
Ooh, what are you doing in there? Sparking something up? Am I allowed to ask that?
we have our ways.
I got you.
Yeah. I was just listening to the show, and I called about an idea for an offensive coordinator.
Okay.
But before I get into that, I just want to say about what's going on. My theory is, I think it's nuts. You talk about you want to come in and make a bunch of waves and make everybody uncomfortable and all that, and I think that's a great idea. I think Jalen can certainly work under the center, and he seems to do better when he does that. He might not like it, but he's done it before, so that can be done again. But I think the big problem is, though, is how do you make waves is one of the reasons they're going to this kid in with the Packers is because I think he's just a young kid and he doesn't have much of an entourage. I don't think the Eagles somebody bring in their entourage. So how are you supposed to make people uncomfortable when you're dealing with the Eagles running back coach, their wideout coach, all these other Eagle coaches?
Right. No, you're right. You should
have to have some kind of mega personality if you're just one or two guys coming in there to change the whole show.
Right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, it is. No, you're right. Because guess what? Mike McDaniel is going to want to bring in his guys. But that's the thing. This offense is so broken that if it was a Mike McDaniel, I'm not saying you do this for anybody, right? You don't just do this for Joe Schmo coming off of zero pedigree. But if you want to get the Mike McDaniel of the world, or if you want to go after a Brian Daboll who has had some success as an OC in this league, then if it costs you your run game coordinator or your passing game coordinator, that's the price you pay. But you look at what the guy's accomplished in the league and you say, okay, that's a calculated risk worth taking. Who under Nick Sirianni is so guaranteed a lock of a stud that you can't move off of him for a Mike McDaniel? That would be my question, you know?
Right. I mean, you only have to go to Sirianni, but like you said, with the other coordinators and these other minor coaches, the Eagles need to give up on that and let somebody bring in 6, 7, 8 people with them, so he has his whole idea immediately spread throughout the area. By the time one or two guys tries to get their message through, you're halfway through the freaking season.
And another thing that I hate, Marty, and thank you for the call, man, I appreciate it, is anybody under Nick, I don't think they got it. Not it. That doesn't mean they flat out stink, but I mean have it. Kevin Patullo was the closest thing to Nick Sirianni. If Nick Sirianni had something special about him from a schematic standpoint, then Kevin Patullo would have shown better signs. You can't get more tied to the hip than what Kevin Patullo was, and that's what you got. So if that's the closest thing to Nick, and it was a disaster, I got to imagine the other 95% of coaches that are under Nick at a lesser level are probably in worse positions. And yet we can't move off of some of these guys? You have to. You have to pay a price to get something like that. Right? Look at what John Harbaugh did. Now, that's a head coach, not an offensive coordinator. But he went in and said, we're changing everything. This dude's going in there trying to change the promotions department. But the point is, sometimes you got to strip things clean and really deep clean. I think there's an element of this offense that needs a serious deep clean, and I don't know if they're willing to do it that way. And you should, especially if you get a high-profile coordinator that could bring in some guys to help run what they like to run. But ever since that Chip Kelly experience, they've been scarred. And I think they've been too scarred, where now they're not allowed to do anything else. They're unwilling to change their ways because of how problematic that one situation went. Well, listen, you got to wiggle a little bit, man. You do. You got to find a way to juggle this thing. It's mandatory.